We're playing some paper OP06 locals. I almost said 5 there, but we're playing Sakazuki. We see a little bit of some of the classics from 05 and some new 06 tech as well, so a good variety. Then in game 2, we actually play up against the Nami mirror for fun. This one was done kind of last round. It was all in good fun with a close friend of mine at Locals, so it was good. It was great stuff, and I hope you enjoy this first soiree to some paper 06. We start things off with a bang. Our opponent just uses Sakazuki leader ability and passes the turn, which is good, but we do start the game off with a bunch of peel-offs in our hand, which isn't ideal, but we do have the Kaya to hopefully help filter through a little bit here, and we do end up coming up against multiple tough situations here. Firstly, it's going to be that triple peel-off that you're going to see. So that means, I have to cast those peel-offs, which is a lot of Dawn investment early against a deck that does start swinging at you pretty heavy. So I'm going to counter out that 5k attack with the Mr. One. They play brand new, get out a 2k counter from there. They do lose 2 Morias, which is pretty big for us. They play a Tashigi, grab a 5 cost 6k attacker that can't be KO'd on damage, in combat. And at this point, I'm thinking about how I want to cast these peel-offs. They are really going to be the card that decides whether I win or lose here, because they need to draw me into Gavels, Deathwings, and all that good stuff. So at this point, I'm going to play a White Snake based on their attack, kind of represent my White Snake that way, so it's that kind of permanent 6k. I don't know, how do you represent your White Snakes? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you have a token? Do you use dice? I kind of just flip it under my leader like that. I think that's probably the way I'm going to continue to do it. I like it that way. I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of just double checking that card. Haven't played against it too much, so I still have to get used to things. I draw a card, go to 6 Dawn, peel off, draws me Deathwing and Mr. One. No Gavel so far, so I can't really enable that Deathwing just yet with double peel off, and that's what's gonna really hold me back in many ways. But because they're playing a lot of low cost stuff, this is stuff that our White Snake can really handle, so I'm honestly hoping to see multiple of these this game. They're gonna swing in with 7k. I'm going to go Spada first, then rearrange those cards. I'm going to put that Deathwink at the bottom because I know that that's going to win me the game, and that setup is actually what helped me get there at the end. You're going to see how that Deathwink plays into us being the bottom 3 cards. They swing in with 6, and then what I do is I kind of White Snake first, then counter out to Mr. One, redraw a card, and then at this point, they're going to use leader ability and pass. The Hina comes in. Eventually, I'm going to have to take a hit based on how I'm set up here. I'm going to have to kind of peel off, and then at this point, I find myself a Kaya and a double Zeph here off the Kaya play, and I'm happy to get rid of the Arabic Brickfists just because, like, I'm pretty healthy in terms of the cards in my hand. I don't need a Brickfist Kayas to gain any type of advantage or filter through, so that's perfectly fine. And at this point, those Zephs are just largely dead. They're going to be able to kind of really get rid of them with Lucci's and then Sakazuki's ability, so it's not really a card that you want to play in this matchup. So they swing in for 7. I'm going to spot a look at the top cards in my deck and rearrange it in that order. So I see that I have the White Snake, I have an Impel down on top, and I want to see how I want to play it, so I counter out with the Zeph as well. Additionally, this one I can rubber band. What they're going to do is they're going to swing in 7k with the Hina, and honestly, I'm just going to take it here because that's not really the card I'm looking to counter out with at this point. So I'm going to take the hit and then bring the Kai into my hand. I got to bluff the attack here, and I could have honestly countered out with that. There probably was a better way to do this, but in general, I didn't really want to use these high cost attacks right now. I wanted to use these early on. So at this point, I'm going to rubber band, put that card away. They swing in with 6, then with 3 Dawn, they play or 4 Dawn, I should say, they play the Rob Lucci, kill my Kayas. Now, I draw pretty well. I'm going to Sanji's peel off, then Kaya. So draw 2, discard 2. Find myself some bounce effects, and I actually get rid of 2 very important cards here that might be relatively unintuitive to many players, but I'm doing this because my Dawn needs to be used as effectively as possible on my turn. So swing in, get some cards out. I bounce a Rob Lucci, which is a 6k attack, which they only need 1 Dawn investment to get to 7k, which is really kind of annoying in that sense. So I'm going to play the Kaya, draw 2, discard 2. I see the Gavel there, so I'm going to get rid of cards that really kind of ruin like how I'm going to use my Dawn here, and at this point the Deathwink is going to have to be used next turn. This turn what I'm going to do is White Snake, Gavel, and then kind of discard the card that I draw with the White Snake. Hopefully it's not like a peel off or something, But at this point, whatever, they're KOing with the Rob Lucci again. That's perfectly fine. Don't really want to KO the Nojiko, just least amount of value. I'm going to draw again with the White Snake, giving my Nami some amount of Dawn here. And I'm actually just going to take the attack here. I'm going to trigger the Rubber Band, mill through, and that's fine. Like sometimes you just need to redraw and take that because that's a permanent 1k effect. I'm going to gavel pitch that, and then pass the turn from there, right? And like really just pass. I could use the Zeph here to swing out. I'm going to have to take that hit because they swing in for 7. I'm only at 6 with the Nami, and that's perfectly fine. Untap, we go to Zeph plus a card plus Deathwink. In a moment, we're going to see what that card is if I can just bring my hand up here. And then I'm going to swing 5k right at the Hina. And then I'm going to pass here. So I have double Deathwink, right? Which is why I don't use up any Dawn. If I start having to draw into multiple cards that require me to use up this Deathwink, then it's going to be a real goddamn problem. Like, I mean, I am getting low in deck, I will say that, but it is kind of close. So they're going to bottom deck that card, which is pretty frustrating. I'm going to redraw with my Love Mellow to counter out that attack from there. They did Houndblade, so that was like a 7k attack there. Is 7k again. I'm going to Deathwink. Don't draw any more cards. I have double Deathwink, so I have to kind of enable these. I'm going to Zeph and then redraw with that Deathwink, and that's really what you want to do. You want to maximize the amount of cards that you can get off of these cards on their turn. And I do happen to find the Gavel, which is actually a really good situation. Take the hit off Rob Lucci. Impel Down is a fantastic card to hit off of here. Now, they attack in with their Sakazuki leader. At this point, I'm checking like, okay, you have no more attacks. You're tapped out with Dawn, and I just want to make sure I'm using the stuff properly here. So Brickfist, going to mill out those 2 cards. I'm going to untap and I'm going to draw. At this point, I'm kind of in that win condition. I'm at 6 cards left, and I have to think, okay, how do I win this game? I know that my bottom 3 cards are Deathwink, and kind of 2 other cards from there. It's going to be Mellow, Deathwink, and I believe it was Spada at this point. So I'm going to Mr. 1 grab the Gavel, and what that's going to allow me to do is mill 2 cards. And then from there, I'm going to be able to potentially find that Deathwink. I know my Deathwink at this point is 3 cards down, so how do I get to that? How do I get to that Deathwink? So it's all going to depend on this hit. I'm going to have to take this hit because then I can just maximize my opportunity to draw more cards, draw more, or like mill more cards. Maybe it's a Rubber Band trigger, whatever it might be. So they bottom deck that card from there, and that's kind of really frustrating, but it's fine. We can still get there on the amount of cards that we need to mill. Kind of spoilers. So they Houndblaze, I mill over 2 cards. And then what I decide to do here is then I decide to Deathwink, and then eventually I have to take a hit. So I'm going to Deathwink here, draw 2 cards, Mellow into the Deathwink, which is fantastic. Then what I'm going to do is, at this point, I'm going to Deathwink and draw with the Love Mellow, but I have to maybe take a hit as well, because then that might actually allow me to win the game. This hand doesn't win me the game. Based on how I know my bottom deck is set up, this hand doesn't win me the game, but I could draw and keep going from there. So I'm going to take the hit. I draw a Gavel, which is fantastic. That's GG. That is the card I need. So, and I'm thinking like, okay, just making sure that is how I win this game. And then they go in for 1 more attack. No trigger on the Gavel. Don't need to bounce anything whatsoever. And then I just win the game. So I just demonstrate that with the 4 Dawn here. Kind of Gavel, mill over 2. Deathwink draws me 2. That is the win. Nami supremacy continues in OP06. Let's hop right into the mirror. What's crazy here is in this game, I actually don't need to speed anything up. This is just going to be a pretty short game based on who finds more of the cards that they need. So my opponent here, before I even kind of shuffle things up, they started their game going, and that's perfectly fine. Like, let them do it. I know that this is really just going to be a game of solitaire. So they start off with 1 Dawn and a Buggy, grabbing that 0 cost kind of counter out there. They play a slightly different version of Nami. It's definitely not stock, and it may or may not end up working against us here. So I got a 2 Dawn and then pass the turn. You finally get to see me play at regular speed, by the way. So hopefully that's interesting enough to all of you. Now, this point, I know they're not really going to attack in, and I am definitely more of a reactive list. I definitely need my opponent to hit me, and I just don't end up finding the cards that I need early on. So we're just gonna have to play a lot of draw go. And so I draw, go to 2 Dawn. I finally find a Kaya, which is great. Draw 2, and then that allows me to then discard some cards and take it from there. Really, it's the Deathwinks that don't really matter here, and honestly the White Snakes as well, but if they do combat in, White Snakes do redraw me. So Deathwinks are going to go, and it's really just about who finds their Pilafs, who finds their Kayas. This is just a game of solitaire. It's not necessarily going to be the type of game where I find that 1 cost card. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm forgetting the name of the card, but it's 1 cost 2k counter. You discard 2 cards from your hand, and then you find a East blue card. So I find myself another Kaya. I don't have that card. That's what I was trying to get to, but I play another Kaya, draw 2, discard 2. There actually is a really cool piece of tech that my opponent has that really ends up messing with me here later in the game. But I also know that they have Rush Usopp, and that is a card that I genuinely have to be aware of. I have to respect that card at all times, and I have to be ready to it. So I'm going to discard the Nojiko and the Desert Spada to the Kaya. I'm going to Brick Fist back and then pass the turn from there. My opponent, it really just depends on who finds what. Who finds their Zephs to bounce their Kayas, who finds their Zephs to find their pieces here. So they actually play an 8 cost, put 2 4 costs or less to the bottom. That ends up being absolutely crazy. A little Nami board wipe, which, I don't know, it's pretty cool tech. I think, I don't know, I guess it helps against Sakazuki. I'm not sure if it, like what it really helps against, but that 8 cost is a lot of investment. So they do have to play it, and it ends up really working out for them here because it does put 2 Kayas back, which is kind of unfortunate, like, for us, but if we do happen to gain access to those cards again, it would be good. Now they're going to put my Zeph back to the bottom again, which is really unfortunate. Then they're going to play Rush Usopp, but they don't have the 1 Dawn to attach to it, which is fine. You don't exactly want to attack into an open hand and trigger anything I have. You want to treat those cards in the Nami mirror like they are permanently gone, unless you're playing with Zeph. So Nojiko is going to bounce back that Rush Usopp. It's essentially like a Zeph investment, because if you Rush Usopp, you do want to attach 1 Dawn to it to attack into the Nami, and that's something I have to be aware of. It's going to be that type of investment that they have to play to make things like that work. So they're going to kind of play the Kaya, draw 2, discard 2. They're going to pay 3. They are going to Brick Fist, play the Kaya again, so that's kind of what they're representing there. So we're just playing through some relatively fast Nami, draw 2, discard. Then what they're going to do, based on the amount of Dawn that they have, they pay 5, and they Zeph me. This is just, again, finding your Zeph first, playing the Kaya, that is just really unfortunate. They are zooming through their deck, and sometimes this is what it just ends up being. Who finds these effects first, and that's what it ends up being in the Nami mirror. Sometimes there isn't a lot of tech that you can play against it, but a lot of what they're doing is stopping what I'm doing, because those, if you remember, those Kayas that I had, they bottom decked it at the perfect time, because I top decked the Zeph. I could have been able to bounce the, mill 2 cards, bounce the Kaya, play the Kaya again, maybe find some more options, blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't know what I had at that time, and they had the removal that they needed at the correct time. They found what they needed. They found a peel off there. They're just drawing raw cards. They're paying 3 again. They are peel offing again. This is, honestly, this isn't just looking good. They're seeing more cards than me, and that is the scary thing here. They use 1 Dawn. They find another Kaya. I can imagine that you're seeing this is going rather downhill for me pretty quick, but if I do find a quick sequence of cards, I might actually be able to bring this game back. So they pass the turn. I draw a card into another Impel Down. Wow, the exact cards that I want to see. I wonder what was in my life at this point, trapping me into this game. They use 5 Dawn here. They play another Zeph, bounce the Kaya, mill 2 cards. That deck is looking so slim. They then use 1 Dawn to play out the Kaya again, right? It's just logical. You just got to aggro through the deck here. Draw 2, discard 2 cards, and guess what? They ask how many cards are in my hand, how many answers are in my hand, and then guess what they decide to play eventually? Well, they play the Kaya here. Actually, that might be next turn here. I was doing a little bit of a prediction, but I guess it's coming next turn. You'll see the tech that they have against. So honestly, this tech is probably something worth trying. I remember I tried it in an older video that I can maybe link down below, but you'll see it here. So I find the Zeph, which isn't that bad here, and I do some kind of thinking here. So I play the Zeph, and I'm thinking about whether or not to bounce certain cards. I'm going to mill 2 cards. Losing the Kaya is so unfortunate. So I play the Nojiko, and he's like, are you sure you want to do that? And he just kind of lets me take it back. So we're having some good fun here. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. They're so low in cards, I don't exactly want to bounce the Nojiko. So I'm going to keep the Nojiko in hand as like an additional counter. It's like, you just put it back in your hand. That's perfectly fine. We're kind of playing last round, and kind of we're having good fun here. He's so far ahead. He's like, whatever, just take this for what it is. He kind of sees the writing on the wall. I think he has the secret sauce in hand already. So he's like, whatever, just let you keep it. If you want to play it, that's fine. But I don't think there was any malicious intent whatsoever. They play that Zeph. They play out the pudding, which is why I guess, you know, a lot of people can say maybe this was bad. You know, they're asking you to put it in hand. No, it's fine. This game was so far ahead for them. Maybe I would have called it malicious if they, you know, if I was ahead and they did this, but putting what it does is it gets your opponent to shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 5 cards. So especially against matchups like blue and black, where they have so many cards in their hand, this can be a really great way to get those cards down so that you can start swinging in with your Zefs. It's actually really cool piece of tech, pretty solid option. And at this point, with that many cards left in their deck, I'm just like, oh, draw 2, then pay another 3 Don, draw 2. And it, like, look, based on the amount of cards that they have, I played that Zeph earlier. They have 4 Dawn up. I can't exactly attack. And I can't even go that far down in terms of how I want to attack, how I want to do this, because then their Zeph could just swing in, mill over 7 cards. I play Kaya, draw 2, discard 2. The writing's on the wall here, folks. This game is completely over. And I'm happy to, like, you know what, maybe I should speed it up, but you know, you get to see the Nami mirror here. You're going to get to see how it ends up here. Maybe you can appreciate the special alt art Nami that I got off Etsy right there on the board. You know what? Just look at the Nami swag and look at 2 Nami players just saucing each other up. Zeph, mill 2 cards, and then they're going to play the Kaya, draw 2 cards. They are just left with absolutely nothing. They're just going to win the game there. Yep, draw 2, discard 2. And yeah, they're left at 3 cards. So that is, at this point, based on the board state, that is 3 turns, right? But then guess what? They're going to pay another, they're going to play another Dawn here. And they're going to get to really ending my hopes and dreams all with that one. They're going to Brick Fist, return the Kaya to hand, play the Kaya again. They are left with 1 card left in deck and essentially saying, look, you got 50% of your deck left. Can you win with 1 Zeph? Absolutely not. I can't. There is way too many cards here. So we're going to Sanji's peel off. We're going to Sanji's peel off. Again, right? Draw 2 cards. Yeah. We're not winning this game, right? So we're going to Kaya, draw 2, and then discard 2. We ultimately don't get there. So I was just like, GG's. But yeah, that's it. OP06 locals. Enjoy.